Hello and welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. Man, a lot has happened this week and we have a lot to talk about. But before we get into this show, as always, my name is Kyle and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive when the Roman calendar actually made sense. My dad, Tim.
When was that?
Before Julius Caesar?
He made the Julian calendar so that we...
Right, but it's not originally what it was supposed to be. Do you not know this story?
No. What story?
Okay, has it never bothered you that September, October, November, and December are the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th month of the year?
Honestly, I've never even given it a thought.
Okay, I have.
Of course you have.
So sept in Latin or Greek or whatever means, it's in Latin actually.
Latin,
yeah,
obviously.
sept means 7, oct means 8, nov means 9, and dec or deca means 10. Originally in the Julian calendar, well, in the Roman calendar, it wasn't the Julian calendar until Julius Caesar, the September was the 7th month, October 8th, November 9th, December 10th, which is why they have those names.
Okay.
And they had the 11th and 12th month named after the 11th and 12th in Latin, which I don't know what they were. But Julius Caesar came in and decided he needed his own month. And so he created
July came in.
July.
And then Augustine came in.
Well, hold on. So he came in and decided my month needs to be in the middle of the calendar. And so he created July, pushing all those other months back one, and made it 31 days. Because if you also notice,
Yes.
It's 31. It was supposed to be 29 or 30. And then it was 31, and then 30, and then 31, then 30, except for July and August, because as you said, after March 15th, when Julius Caesar was assassinated and the war with Mark Antony,
Beware the Ides of March.
Then all of a sudden Augustus came in and said, well, if Julius has a month, I have to have a month as well in the middle of the calendar. And he made August, and God forbid Julius have 31 days and Augustus not have 31 days. So they took a day from February, completely screwed up the pattern of the calendar.
Or February.
And now September, which means 7, is now 9. October, which means 8, is now 10. And 11 and 12, which are supposed to be the 9th and 10th month of the years. That's never bothered you before?
I've never even given it a thought.
I've apparently given it too much thought, and
Way
I'm
too
hoping my viewers now give this too much thought because it drives me nuts.
Well, it's going to drive people nuts who have never thought of it. We're living their lives very happily just with the calendar we've had.
Welcome to my world.
And
because it does bother me. Like I realized one day, well, because I'm born in September, right?
Yeah.
September means 7. And then I found, like I always do, my special little wormholes. And this was when I was like 10 years old. I just went down this wormhole. Like I was using encyclopedias back then to figure this out.
Yeah, we had them at the house.
And I was like, this makes no sense. Sept means 7. Why is this the 9th month? And then I realized Julia and Augustus, with their egos, messed it all up.
December means Christmas.
Now it does.
Yeah.
But December is Deca, which means 10. It's supposed to be the 10th month of the year, and it's not.
So are you suggesting that the world come together and change the calendar?
Yeah. I am.
Don't think it's going to happen.
They need to get rid of July and August, and they need to make July September, because that's the 7th month of the year.
So wait a minute. The year is 364 days, except in leap year when it's 365. What do you propose doing?
Well, you had the same months. Give February its day back that Augustus stole from it.
Okay.
Move September, October, November, and December back 2 months to where they were supposed to be. And then add back the 2 months that were there that meant 11 and 12 when the calendar made sense.
I didn't know there was at one time calendars at the end. And you know I love history, so this is actually weird. And
there were 2 extra months, and then Julius got rid of the 12th month for July, and then moved everything back. And then Augustus came in and got rid of the 11th month and put in August, and now everything's 2 months behind, starting with September.
I like Italian, so I'm not going to say anything bad about them. Damn Romans.
Damn Romans, man. The Roman Empire. Why do we follow the Roman Empire? They failed. And yet we still use all their stuff.
We do.
Like, we don't appreciate Roman gods because the Greeks had it first. The Romans just renamed them all.
Does this have anything to do with sports?
No, it doesn't. But you know what? This is my identity, okay? And you know what I'm doing this holiday season?
What are you doing?
I'm making sure my identity's protected with our new sponsor, Aura.
Aura is an incredible identity protection system. They use artificial intelligence to make sure that your information isn't getting out on the dark web. They also have VPN security to make sure that if you are making your purchases online, which everybody does now because nobody wants to go shopping at the malls anymore, which is actually sad. But if you're using online, make your purchases safe. Don't be one of the 49 million people who had their identity stolen last year. Don't be like what happened to me a few years ago when I lost my identity.
Yeah, and listen, I just learned by using Aura, you don't have to make a purchase for your information to be stolen. There are things called cookies out there that do take your information, and you can go to a website, as I did, looking for Batman things because Kevin Conroy died, and I was on my grief shopping trip, and I was looking at different Batman memorabilia on a bunch of different sites, and one of those sites I went to was able to get a hold of my information, and Aura was able to pop up, save my identity, and showed me exactly which site it was. So make sure you are protected because you do not have to buy for your identity to be in danger.
When I did my search, my identity was on the dark web 11 times, which is really scary.
It is. Mine was 12, now 13, thanks to my grief shopping of Batman memorabilia. But hey, we talked to Aura. We realized how good of a product this was, and we went to them and said, listen, during the holiday season, we need to make sure our listeners not only get to try this and realize how great it is, but we need to make sure they get to try this for free. And they agreed. We were able to get you a 2-week free trial, which is perfect for the holiday season. All you have to do is follow the link that you see here on the screen or that's in the description below, and you will get 2 weeks free from Aura to make sure during this holiday season your identity is protected.
Well said.
Yes. I was shopping for something else. By the way, every time you say dark web during that commercial, anybody who's seen the show Letterkenny, which is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen, anytime they say dark web, they go, dark web.
Then you should say it after I say it.
And so every time you go dark web, I want to go, in my brain, it's going, dark web.
Why don't you say it?
Because I don't want to interrupt the flow with my crazy brain. But I did shop for something else after Sunday night's Packer game.
Was a Wisconsin jersey?
It wasn't a Wisconsin jersey. We're not talking about that yet. Okay? You shush your mouth. We're not talking about that yet. I love you.
Not anymore.
We are talking about the fact that the Packers have just found their 3rd Hall of Fame quarterback in a row.
Who did they draft?
Jordan Love.
He was in for 2 series.
He had swagger. He looked great. He, to me, now is like a McDonald's commercial because ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it.
McDonald's, you should pay for that commercial.
You should, because you should hire Jordan Love as your spokesperson because you have a Hall of Fame quarterback right now who just stepped onto the field, looked just like Aaron Rodgers did against Dallas when he came in for Favre.
He was in for 2 series. I like the meme that I saw.
He looked great.
I liked it when Jordan Love was walking out with Jalen Hurts. Love hurts.
It does.
He looked.
I think the song is Love Stinks.
I don't care. Love Hurts is just as good. Look, Jordan Love looked good for the couple series he was in. For the first time,
good.
He looked like the game has finally slowed down for him.
He walked out on the field and he looked like Aaron Rodgers. He did the shoulder thing. He was like, all right, I got this. And I was like, okay, who is this guy? Because all of a sudden it went from me watching the second coming of Brett Hundley against Kansas City to watching somebody who clearly did exactly what Rodgers did with a better relationship with the quarterback, sat back, watched, listened, clearly has been learning in practice. He was throwing bullets.
Slow your roll.
No.
He looked better. Not arguing
I have
that.
a Jordan Love t-shirt on the way.
Of course you do.
I'm buying his autograph while it's still cheap. Because
What, you think he's going to be the third Hall of Fame quarterback?
The Packers
have?
just went back to back Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
I'm gonna hashtag Jordan Love in this video so
Yeah.
he knows you love him.
Dude, I do.
He looked. I'm very pleased because he actually, for the first time, as I said, looked like the game was slowing down and looked like he was in control of the offense, which I love to see. He made a bad throw to on the run to Cobb. It was behind him.
He made the bad throw there. Well, was it behind him or was there a defender that he saw and didn't see the other one and put the ball where it had to be in order to make the
Nobody
catch?
was going to intercept.
And he made one throw on the run, which was he went to the end zone rather than going to Lazard, who was open and probably could have scored. But with the situation, I understand why he made that decision. Sure. We had to score quick.
Right. He looked good, but make no mistake, he was playing against guys who were already tired. The end of the game, he came in, he looked good. Let's see what he does if he actually has to start a game and play for real, which he may get the chance yet this year.
Rodgers is playing on Sunday.
He's going against the Bears.
He's going against the Bears because he does own Soldier Field, so he needs to make an appearance to make sure they pay rent.
In his head, in their head.
In reality.
Look, Aaron Rodgers is a quarterback, and I hope he stays a Packer quarterback for another 2 or 3 years. Jordan Love may, in fact, leave, and then he may turn into be a great quarterback.
Listen, I am a Rodgers defender. I am an Aaron Rodgers fan. Rodgers is the quarterback of my childhood, right? I've defended him on this show, and I will continue to defend him. He is fighting for competitive greatness.
I was just going to say he has,
which I don't know where that came from, but it's a new thing he's going with. He is an old school football player, though. He said that Pat McAfee brought that up, and I completely agree. He is an old school football player because he's playing through injury. He saw Favre do it for years. He's going to do it as well.
And who is his mentor? Bart Starr, who was the ultimate. Bart Starr got in his ear when he came here and actually mentored him. And make no mistake, Bart Starr is the ultimate old school quarterback. You just play.
Right. He was playing against Deacon Jones, who,
you
know, tried to murder him several times.
Literally tried to murder him.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. Deacon Jones tried to hurt people.
He did. And he did it very well.
He did. That head slap is illegal for a reason. Thank you, Deacon Jones.
I don't know how many quarterbacks could survive if they went back and played in the 60s and 70s.
It was a different mentality.
Defense owned the game at that point.
They did. It was a different game. It was a different mentality. I like the changes they made to the game because you see how players are now. But at the same time, it's a dangerous game. Like, should there be a head slap like Deacon Jones?
No, absolutely not.
No, there shouldn't.
Should it be there's the spearing that took place when a guy was going across the middle? No, it was good that they got it off.
Is it better that they're not hitting people in the head on purpose when tackling? Yeah, that's better, and you don't see it as much anymore. I think that's great. Is it still a game where people are going to get hurt? Yes, and that's why Joe Burrow is the new Jesus of the NFL, because he says that and he walks on water. But we have another quarterback in Green Bay that walks on water.
He has for years, and 18 years.
Love him.
Yeah, Rodgers is talent-wise the best quarterback that has ever ran the Packer offense.
He is, and he's trained his predecessor well. And
no, not his predecessor.
His
backup.
The other word that I don't know right now.
His successor.
His successor.
Even though I said it badly.
Whatever, we got there, and that's all that matters. And if you like the way that we say crazy things and forget words, let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. I have a proposal for you when it comes to the Green Bay Packers.
It always costs me money. Go ahead.
It could. One, buy me Jordan Love stuff because he's the next Hall of Fame quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. You won't be alive to see it. Then again, you have lived through, Jesus. You'll probably be there for the second coming of Jesus, which is Joe Burrow. He's here, by the way.
Someday lightning is going to come through the house and just take you out.
I'm going to have to answer for this at some point. And hopefully God has a sense of humor.
Better hope. Well,
listen, my God has a sense of humor, so it may be to the right door instead of the left door, but at least I'll be there. But we need to discuss a trade proposal.
okay. By the way, I've heard nothing about this, so it should be interesting.
Which team right now is a Super Bowl team? Like, Super Bowl team the way the Minnesota Vikings were a Super Bowl team when Brett Favre went there.
Oh, one just a quarterback away?
Just a quarterback away.
I would have said Denver, but that's proved not to be true.
I think Denver would be a lot better team with Rodgers there. But I'm really glad our trade proposal didn't go through.
Oh, my.
Russell Wilson is not the quarterback that I thought he was.
He's got his issues. Arizona?
No.
The Giants?
No.
I get New England?
No. Come on.
Well,
This
not
team
the Jets.
has 7 wins.
Not the Jets.
The J-E.
Oh,
Yes.
so we want him to literally
Jets.
follow Favre
Jets.
and go from Green Bay to the Jets and then to Minnesota.
No, he can't go to Minnesota. That would be amazing, just story-wise.
Oh, my God.
But no, he won't go to Minnesota. Although I do think if he's there instead of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, exactly.
But the Jets are winning despite their quarterback throwing for 77 yards in a game. They literally have their number 2 overall draft pick, a healthy, inactive scratch for Mike White, a 5th-round draft pick of the Dallas Cowboys, who had one great game last year and then stunk it up for the rest of the year, and who had one good game this year. Who knows? You have Joe Flacco as your backup.
He should be starting because he's got the greatest name in football.
He does.
Joe Falco.
Not Falco. Flacco.
Say what you want. He'll always be Falco.
To you. Way off topic. Anyways.
My own bunny trail. Sorry.
It's okay. We have them. We bring them back. And then we go.
Zach Wilson has not looked good.
Zach Wilson's done. Zach Wilson
should have been.
I don't remember who said it. It was on ESPN. I don't remember who said it. But Steve Young was on there and strongly disagreed. So I apologize for not giving you credit for this because I think it's a great point. But he said Zach Wilson is a spoiled little brat who's never gone through any type of adversity. He was given the job in high school. He was given the job at BYU. And all of a sudden, he's seeing adversity for the first time.
And he doesn't know
how to handle it.
Right.
He doesn't know how to handle it. And in New York,
you better know how to handle it.
Better know how to handle it. Does Aaron Rodgers know how to handle adversity at this point? Yeah, he was the COVID champion.
He would own New York.
He would own New York, and he would win.
I don't want him to leave Green Bay.
I want to see Rodgers get a chance to win, and unfortunately, the Green Bay GM has made that impossible at this point. I would love to see him have a magic run now, and the Packers go on to win the Super Bowl, just like they did in 2010, because this is really where we were in 2010.
They have got so many injuries. In defense of the defense would look horrible against the Eagles.
That's Joe Barry's fault. Playing man-to-man, you have 3 of the best corners in the league.
True, but their line is hurt. They shouldn't have given up 360 yards or whatever it was.
363.
However, I don't think the pieces are there to make that magical run that they had in 2000.
I don't either. And just like when Favre left, when we were going through a rebuild, I wanted to see Favre go to Minnesota right away. I really did. I didn't want to see the Jets game. I wanted to see him go to Minnesota and win a Super Bowl because he did a lot for Green Bay and he earns that. And he should retire as a Packer just like he did. And I do think Aaron Rodgers will come back and retire as a Packer.
I do too.
100%.
Look.
But I want to see him go and get a real life chance to go out and win like Peyton Manning did. I want to see him do what John Elway did. I want to see him do what Tom Brady did, where he went to a great situation and won. Would I like to see him win in Green Bay? Of course I would. I would love that more than anything. I'm a huge Aaron Rodgers fan.
I want to see him win his second ring. Period.
I want to see him win his second ring.
I want to see
the Jets are ready to go, and the Jets will give up the farm for Green Bay. They are a quarterback away. Are you telling me they're not going to give you 3 first-round draft picks for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, here's the question. Who's going to be making those picks? Because if it's Goody, sorry.
Well, they're going to be wasted.
He is not a good drafter.
In the first round, he did okay. It's everything else, and that's why we have no depth. He doesn't know how to draft offensive linemen and skill positions, clearly.
Look, when the Jordan Love pick happened, everybody in the world, other than maybe Goody himself, knew that he panicked and made a bad pick.
Correct.
He should have went to the next on the depth chart,
Should have traded
whether
back.
whoever it was, an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, D-back, running back, whatever he wanted to do, you don't scramble and take a third, fourth round quarterback in the first round.
He's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, to be fair. I mean, he needed
I
a
hope he
chance to
is.
sit.
I hope he is. He's had the chance to sit behind one of the greatest of all time, probably in the top 5 of all time. If you trade Rodgers, you're sending a signal to everybody in Green Bay, it's over. We're going to be bad for a few years as we rebuild.
Which is fine. We're bad now.
This year, the problem is Rodgers' cap hit is so large, you can't make a lot of
Well,
money.
and that's the problem, too, is if you look at his cap hit next year, do you know what his cap hit next year is?
A lot.
$60 million. Which is why I don't understand why we didn't go all in this year.
That's why I haven't understood that for years.
You have the cap room. Why didn't we do that? But the Jets will eat that cap. They'll give him an extension, and they will eat that cap. 100% will eat that cap. So you trade him, they take on that cap. All of a sudden, it frees up cap. You have Jordan Love on his 5th year to really see what he can do. It's 1 year, so you'll be able to re-sign him for not all-star money, right? And then all of a sudden, you have 3 extra first-round draft picks from the New York Jets who hopefully, with Rodgers, go on and win a Super Bowl. I'll buy a Jets jersey of Aaron Rodgers. I'll be the first one in line.
You're touching on something we're going to touch upon later on when we move to college football. But Packer fans hate, and they hated Brett Favre for going to another team. It was the time. Give the guy, if he still wants to play, give him his chance to win, and we do what we have to do. It's not, football is a business, and people have to realize that. It's not the old, but we're fans, and we love the story, and blah, blah, blah. It's a cold, cutthroat business, period.
Right. Yeah, Packer fans played that game after the 60s, and it's your generation of Packer fans that have cursed my generation of Packer fans with this stupid mindset.
It's been every generation of Packer fans.
Right.
They're unique in football.
But you played that game for 30 years, and we were terrible. And all of a sudden, Ron Wolf comes in, blows everything up,
and
we win a Super Bowl.
Outside the family.
Outside the family. You know who we need to bring back to the family is Elliott Wolf. He should have been the hire over Gutekunst in the first place.
I think he might have been too young at that point.
No.
Yeah, you have to talk into the microphone, otherwise I can't hear you.
I leaned back for 2 seconds. I had to say no to your stupid point. Elliott Wolf should be back, or John Snyder, bring him back into the family.
Anyone who can come in and shake it up. And I'm sorry, at the same time, Mike Murphy's about to retire. It's time for a new regime in Green Bay.
It is. You need to be like Taylor Swift and shake it up.
Is that her song?
God, you're so old. Sorry. You're so old.
Talk about one singer from your age would never want to date. You would have a song about you in a minute.
I'd take it. Why not?
Besides the fact that you
live in infamy.
You're happily married, so you wouldn't do it anyways. But
of course I wouldn't. But if Taylor Swift wanted to write a song about me, so I live in infamy, go for it. Sounds awesome. If it's a #1 hit, it's a hell of a ride.
Now we're going to reel it back into sports.
They need to blow everything up. Rodgers to the Jets makes sense. And again, the Jets will give up the farm because they are that close. They haven't been there for a long time. And the last time they had a number 12, they won a Super Bowl.
Well, and that would be a problem because Rodgers should not wear number 12 in New York.
No, you shouldn't. And I have the same opinion you do on this. You don't take numbers down from the rafters.
Never.
Or anybody. So in that case, I think he'd either go to his high school number of 10 or his college number of 8.
Either way. But he should not ever wear 12 there, or if Dallas has been another landing point people have talked about. I don't want to see him in Dallas wearing number 12.
No, just like when Rodgers leaves, nobody should wear number 12 again. It's just, it shouldn't happen. Nobody should ask wear number 4 or 92 or 14. Like, those numbers don't come down.
Correct.
I don't care who you are. Those were retired for a reason. And I believe the same thing in New York. He'll have to change his number. But he can be number 8 there, and he can go and he can win a Super Bowl. And I think that would be great. I would love it.
Unfortunately, Green Bay is at the point where this what are we at? 30-year run has finally hit a wall.
It hasn't. We're about to start it again. We got another 20 years with a Hall of Fame quarterback. He wears number 10 in Green Bay right now.
Okay, even assuming that that's true.
It is true.
And I'm not quite as optimistic as you are. I hope he is the next coming of Favre and Rodgers. There's a lot of work on that team that's got to be done. You have one true playmaker in Aaron Jones, who
you have
may
to
lose.
Right.
If you keep Rodgers, you're going to lose Aaron Jones.
Yeah, he's a $60 million cap hit.
Correct. So the defense has been injured. I think that needs a shakeup. Joe Barry didn't. I don't know why he doesn't play man with the cornerbacks he has.
Joe Barry's got to go really badly. I just kicked your camera. Sorry about that. I'll fix it. Boom. I fixed your camera.
I look a little jittery. It's time for Green Bay to clean house. And I'm talking at the front office first and then the team.
And give Rodgers a chance to win someplace else.
I'm not saying LaFleur has to go, but
Gutekunst has to go.
Gutekunst
has to go. It's time to move on.
And Mike Murphy needs to retire and give somebody else a chance to come in and make the team his own. Do not ever put coach and general manager in one person's hand again. Ever. It's a disaster. Nobody else is Vince Lombardi. Football has changed to the point where you can't do both
unless
jobs.
you're Bill Belichick.
Well, yeah.
There's always somebody special that can do it.
Correct. And we don't have that.
And that's not there right now.
I want somebody who's going to do it honestly, without cheating. Belichick is a great coach, but
it just remain the Lombardi Trophy. I can agree.
Oh, absolutely. But anyway,
speaking of a trade we talked about that we almost had right, which was
would have been wrong.
Would have been a terrible situation from the looks of it. For those of you that have been listening for a while.
Watching too.
What?
Watching too. We have viewers.
Listening and watching. Yes, listening and watching. I apologize. For those of you that have been listening and watching for a long time, you've seen our prediction that almost came true, which was
this close.
Aaron Rodgers to Denver, which would have brought Russell Wilson into Green Bay.
I did talk to somebody at the Packers. He wouldn't confirm it, obviously.
It was a done deal.
It was a done deal.
It was a done deal that was going to happen, but thank God.
Yeah.
This proves again that God is a Packers fan, by the way, because this trade didn't happen. And Russell Wilson
has had a bad year.
He's had a bad year, and I don't think you can blame Nathaniel Hackett for this one. I really don't.
I don't know. I don't know if they just never got on the same page, if Hackett tried to reel him in too much and wouldn't let him play his style. I don't know what happened, but Hackett is about to be fired.
Hackett's about to be fired due to a ownership change and an unfortunate situation.
True.
But Russell Wilson doesn't have that locker room, and that was proved this weekend.
Go on.
So Mike Purcell, defensive tackle, they make a huge stop against Carolina, comes to the sideline and goes off.
He did.
On Russell Wilson.
Never seen that in my lifetime.
No, they downplayed it after the game.
Of course they did.
But clearly that was and you could tell by Russell Wilson's face, and this is what bothered me, right? If somebody does that to Aaron Rodgers, or somebody did that to Peyton Manning,
you're throwing down
or John Elway, or Dan Marino,
you're throwing down.
If you're the leader of that team, you're throwing down. Instead, Russell Wilson's eyes got wide, and he walked away from the situation. You have your defensive lineman basically with probably a lot more curse words saying, you need to do your job now. Let's go. We did ours. And you're not getting back in the face of that person. I can tell you if somebody got in my face like that, I'd get back in their face.
Yes. If you're if you are have competitive greatness, my new favorite phrase.
Yeah.
You get into his face and go, I'll run the offense. You did your job.
I think that's the name of Rodgers' book that he's putting out, by the way, and that's why he's starting this. I bet you that's what it is. I just came up with that now. I'm a smart guy. But yeah, he doesn't have that competitive edge. He's clearly a deer in the headlights right now that doesn't know what the hell's going on. And you just let a defensive tackle, who I'm sure is a leader on that team, a leader on that defense. It's nothing against the defensive tackle. I think he did the right thing. But you're the quarterback of that team. You don't let anybody talk to you like that. You're the lead. You're supposed to be the leader of this football team. If somebody gets in your face like that and feels comfortable enough to get in your face like that, that's great because you're allowing people to lead as well.
You do it behind closed doors, though. Wilson's lost the team.
Even if it's in person. Like, I don't have a problem if anybody goes off on me, but I'm going to go off back and then we'll kiss and make up later.
Look, this is a Mike Golick thing. He said for years and years on Mike and Mike, if you got a problem with me, come and talk to me in private. We go out as a team.
Right.
That's where that conversation should have been held. There should have been a locker room fight. It happens in football.
All the time. Or if he's going off on the sideline and says, now you do your effing job.
Yeah.
Then you go up to him and say, you got it. And you get fired up and ready to go because you were just called out by a teammate.
And you don't shrink from that.
You don't shrink from that. You either fight back or you say, I got this and we're going to go and get this done.
There should have been.
You don't all of a sudden get wide-eyed and walk away like a 7th grader who's getting bullied.
No, you look back and you're wide-eyed back at him and you don't shrink from the fight.
No, you go back at it. You either say, you're right, we got this, let's go, and you go into your offense and say, the defense just called us out. This is our time to shine. That was his moment to do that and become the leader, but instead, he stopped talking to whatever coach he was talking to and just walked away and stared at the field. Like, what are you doing, man?
Maybe getting ready to retire and go into...
You were just paid $250 million. I mean, it's $101 million guaranteed no matter what. And that's all dead cap money if he retires at the end of the year. I mean, talk about screwing over a team.
Well, sadly, Nathaniel Hackett's going to be fired, and they will be sticking with Russell Wilson.
You have no choice.
It happens. Denver, he needs an attitude change. He needs to come in, and when you're looking at the competition between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson, right now, Pete Carroll might have known something that Denver didn't.
Have you ever seen teammates talk about a former teammate that they won a Super Bowl with, went to 2 and won 1 Super Bowl with, the way that former teammates, especially on the Legion of Boom, have talked about Russell Wilson?
There's not a, you know who he reminds me of? And this may be a bad comparison, but you remember the movie Draft Day?
Yes.
The Wisconsin quarterback?
Yes.
Where none of his players showed up to his birthday party? Kind of similar right now.
It's not looking good.
No, it's not.
It's not looking good.
Sadly, I'm thinking that Draft Day may have been written about Russell Wilson
at this point
going to Seattle. It just looks weird.
Yeah, you know who was the player drafted number 1 overall? Who was the better player and the better character? You know what school he played for?
Yeah, Ohio State. What about it?
Ohio State. I'm just saying, if we're talking Wisconsin versus Ohio State,
who
has the better character?
You want to go to that right now?
No, because I do want to bring up one thing because I have a clip to show.
Did.
I don't want to talk about it at all. You're going to force this, so I'm going to hold it off for as long as I can.
Well,
But we made a prediction at the beginning of the year. Do you remember? Because I can replay it.
Which prediction? Not the Detroit one, I hope.
Well, I can play that one too. But no. Remember this clip. So obviously the NFC East then is your worst division.
My worst.
That's going to be the worst.
I do. It just doesn't have any feel of anybody really wanting to go out and take it. I can name teams in every other division that I think are going to want it. I don't see it in the East. I just think it's a bad division.
Do you remember it now? Because we made a prediction that the NFC East was going to be
the
worst division in football and not even close. All 4 NFC East teams right now are in the playoffs.
That shows you football is weird. And it shows you once again, every year, 6 teams are going to be in that were not in last year, and 6 teams that were in last year are going to be out.
There was no reason Washington turned around the way that they did.
Ron Rivera is a good coach.
He is, and good for him for turning away from Carson Wentz and saying, I don't care how much you're getting paid. This is the guy that's winning.
Right.
And he's going to be our quarterback. Great choice. I mean, he's winning. They lost with Carson Wentz. They're winning with Tyler Heineke. So Dallas needed that turnaround. That one doesn't surprise me. The Giants with a new coach, they had all the pieces in place. I am surprised at the rise early. They played a bunch of bad teams early, though. And
Philadelphia.
we'll see what happens at the end. Philadelphia was the flip of a coin. Like either Jalen Hurts was going to show up or Jalen Hurts wasn't going to show up. And he did. And good for him. He has been amazing to watch.
He's one of those guys that got a little experience under his belt and now has just blossomed.
He spent a lot of money to surround him. They believed in him. And
for good reason,
it
obviously.
paid off. I mean, he could be the next Super Bowl winning quarterback. I mean, this year, they are the best team. I think they'll lose at least one more game, if not two more games, which is good for them.
Yes.
You just hope that they don't start to fall off in the playoffs, because I remember it happened to the Colts. I remember what happened to the Packers, 15-1, and then we lose in the first round of the playoffs.
I don't think that will happen with Philadelphia the way they're playing. It's going to be the NFC Championship game at this point, I would say, is going to be Philadelphia versus San Francisco.
It's a good call, which is funny because the last time I've ever seen a team like the Philadelphia Eagles are right now was when Colin Kaepernick was with the 49ers.
True.
It's just a separate dimension. You have a quarterback that can throw the ball really well and hit people downfield and has the legs to make a big difference.
He is super smart as well.
Oh, extremely intelligent.
His football IQ is off the charts. He's seeing things in different dimensions that other quarterbacks don't. In that regard, he's like Rodgers. He's playing chess throughout the game.
He is. Well, and he's definitely a leader. You saw that at Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
He got benched by Tua and never said a word about it, and even came back the next year and sat behind Tua, the guy who is starting ahead of him, and then left after he graduated and took his opportunity. That's a leader. I'm not leaving my teammates. I'm going to be here to support this guy throughout. If he beat me, he beat me. I'm going to be here and compete. It is old school football. I love Jalen Hurts for that, and I'm happy he's seeing the success.
You know who that
I didn't expect it.
You know who it reminds me of? You're going to call me old school right now. What other Alabama quarterback was benched his senior year, but stayed there, went through it all, and became a Hall of Fame quarterback?
One, it was a different time. You didn't transfer back then.
Even if he could have, he wouldn't have.
But it was Bart Starr.
It was Bart Starr. Bart Starr was benched, went to Green Bay because somebody at Alabama knew Lombardi.
What record does Bart Starr hold to this day?
The highest winning percentage in the playoffs, 90%.
There is that, but I meant when it came to draft.
He was what, like 15th round draft pick?
17th. He's the lowest drafted player to ever go into the Hall of Fame.
That record will stand forever.
Well, yeah, because there's not that many rounds.
They don't have that many rounds anymore.
There's 7 rounds, not 17.
Correct. They're all
undrafted now.
He has 2 records that will stand eternally. Nobody's ever going to have 90% winning percentage. And the only game he lost was the first one he ever played in, the playoff game.
Right. He didn't lose again.
After that.
Did not lose again.
Okay, we're done with that. Jalen Hurts is a unique talent. He and Philadelphia are made for each other.
They are.
I can't wait to see.
Sirianni's a great coach who took advantage of what Jalen Hurts had to offer.
I can't wait to see the NFC Championship if it's San Francisco. And here's the question for San Francisco. What are you going to do next year?
I don't know. You have to sign Jimmy Garoppolo. You don't have a choice.
So here's another reason I do not like the new Cleveland team, Cleveland ownership. Why would Deshaun Watson be starting his first game of the season in Houston?
Well, you know why.
I'm sorry. The fact that the women are going to be there is a good thing. This guy is
we didn't mention that. I think you're jumping ahead of the story here. Watson's coming back this week.
Why does that just surprise you that I jumped ahead of the story? I tend to do that.
It doesn't. It's why I'm here. Watson starting in Houston this week. It was announced that several of the women, not all of them, but several of the women that did accuse Deshaun Watson of what they accused him of are going to be at the game, quoting, "We are going to make sure we're not forgotten."
As they should not be forgotten.
This happened, and we're going to make sure we're there so people don't forget we exist. Which is good. I'm with you on that one.
Deshaun Watson did some very bad things.
Yes, I think that
a guy like that should not be playing this year at all. At all. I don't care how talented he is.
But he's going to come in and he's going to light it up.
Yeah.
He hasn't played in a year and a half. He's been practicing. He's a great talent. And he's going to come in and light it up, and everybody's going to forget this ever happened.
Cleveland's already forgotten it. All they want is wins.
Right. They're terrible fans.
Yes. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Milwaukee's baseball fans cheered for Ryan Braun, who's just as bad a human being.
Also terrible fans.
Terrible fans. And I'm one of them, sadly.
Yeah.
I refused. I went to a game where he had him around. I refused to stand up. But I mean, Deshaun Watson, I believe in second chances, but Deshaun Watson has done no mea culpas. He's done nothing to try to say, yeah, I've learned from the stupid things I've done.
I don't always believe in second chances. Some people don't deserve second chances. I mean, there's a reason people do one crime and end up with life in prison.
True.
Like, I mean, you don't always get a second chance, but if you're talented enough,
you get several chances.
You get several chances. I mean, that's been shown time and time again. NFL's about money, and this game is going to have a lot of ratings on it. It really is. But this isn't like I heard some people comparing this to Michael Vick coming back. This isn't Michael Vick.
No,
Michael Vick did his time,
and he learned obviously from what happened.
Michael Vick did his time. He paid his punishment for what he did. And has done a lot since. By the way, as a dog owner again of pit bulls, he was actually allowed to own some and takes very good care of those dogs. Does a lot with pit bull rescues. He learned his lesson. That man deserves a second chance.
Absolutely.
And I was extremely excited to see him get that and have the success that he had. Because in my opinion, Michael Vick should be a Hall of Fame quarterback.
He is a Hall of Fame quarterback in my mind. Michael Vick came back. He knew what he did. I don't think it computed as to what he was doing. It should have, but it didn't. So he goes to jail. He talks to a lot of people from protection agencies for animals, gets it now, and is like, I can't believe I ever did that. That was a different lifetime ago.
Well, and he never denied it.
No, he never did. He stood up and took it.
He never denied it. He took his punishment. That's somebody that deserves a second chance. And that's somebody I will always cheer for.
And by the way, is one of the most insightful commentators on NFL
He's amazing.
Football.
He's amazing. I'm a huge Michael Vick fan. Obviously, I'm a fan of what he did. I've had dogs my entire life. But again, people can make mistakes, and that's a man that deserved a second chance, and I'm glad he got it. Deshaun Watson has admitted to doing no wrong.
Correct.
Deshaun Watson has just tried to make this go away and has victim blamed throughout the entire time.
Pay off
he won't
who you have
talk
to.
about it.
Nope.
Why does somebody like that deserve a second chance? This clearly happened.
Yeah.
Because he's not even fully denying it. He's just not admitting it and refusing to take any type of punishment for what he did. Those people don't deserve second chances, in my opinion. It's the same thing with like Darren Sharper, right? The guy never admitted he did anything wrong. I used to be a huge Darren Sharper fan. Not anymore. Guy can rot in jail for all I care.
And is doing it from what I've heard.
And is doing it. And Deshaun Watson, to me, is in that same book. I'll never cheer for Deshaun Watson. I just can't.
I feel bad for Cleveland fans, but if they embrace him, that's just bad karma.
If he comes back, though, and lights it up, this will all be forgotten.
His attitude makes me think that it's going to happen again, though. I hope it doesn't. God, I hope he learns from it.
Unfortunately, situations like this, I think somebody in Michael Vick learned from what he did wrong. Unfortunately, I think Deshaun Watson has learned
he can get away with it
better at what he's done wrong. I mean, you saw the same thing with Gregory from Dallas, right? How many chances was that guy given? And just couldn't help himself. There are people like that in the world. They're called sociopaths. And I think we are dealing with one of those in Deshaun Watson. And it's unfortunate that he got the largest guaranteed contract. And it's unfortunate. Again, he's a great talent. And I think he's going to come back. And I think he's going to light up the NFL.
That's sad. Can we go on to something more exciting?
We can go on to something more exciting. But I don't want to talk about what you want to talk about.
Come on.
I see the show sheet.
It's time.
And I don't want to talk about this.
Sing it with me. On Wisconsin.
No.
Yes. You are now officially a Badger fan.
I'm not.
You have to be.
I'm a huge Luke Fickell fan.
As well you should be.
And I don't like it.
Oh, you sound like a bunch of towny Wisconsin fans, I know.
Well, mine's different.
Yeah, I know it is.
I don't like it because I don't like Wisconsin. Like I'm Wisconsin just made the greatest hire in their program history since Barry Alvarez.
Correct.
They just hired a guy who is going to never lose a recruit again, who has ties to Ohio and Michigan, who is getting these recruits in Cincinnati. You just got a guy from Cincinnati who last year had the third highest players of any school taken in the NFL draft at 9.
Was in the
behind
NCAA
Georgia and LSU, which means he had more players drafted than Ohio State, than Michigan, than Alabama, than Florida, then Oklahoma,
USC. Which, by the way, don't forget, he had opportunities to go to USC, to go to Texas, to go a lot of other places. He chose Wisconsin.
He did. He's a Midwest guy. Played at Ohio State, coached at Ohio State.
Made it very clear that he wanted to go someplace where he
want to stay in the Midwest.
His family would feel comfortable. Madison is that in spades. It's one of the best towns in the country to live in.
It is.
And for people outside of Wisconsin, if you've never lived in Madison, it is a great city to live in.
Ignore the politics side of things.
It's really weird. It's 69 square miles surrounded by reality, but as a city to live in and to go to football games, it's awesome.
Madison doesn't belong in the Midwest, but it's a great city.
It is a great city.
I lived in Madison. You lived in Madison. I love Madison as a city. There's always something to do.
The best gyros in the world.
People are super nice for the most part.
The best gyros in the world at the Parthenon.
Agree to disagree. They're good.
They're great.
I've had better.
They're the best.
I've had better.
No, you haven't. Anyways, Madison's a great city. Luke Fickell is a perfect fit. I know everybody, if you're a Wisconsin fan, you love Jim Leonard's story. I get it. Paul Chryst was taking the program nowhere fast. It was down to mediocrity. Jim Leonard
Dude didn't know how to recruit. Didn't know how to recruit.
You know what I loved about Luke Fickell's first press conference? He said, I'm going to focus on recruiting and on the strength program.
Yes.
He's already brought in a strength coach.
Correct.
The two things Wisconsin hasn't had, their offensive line has been dominated, which is just insane for somebody who watched the Barry Alvarez Badgers.
Yeah, you hired somebody who was the quarterback of your team when they sucked.
Yes.
And you expect that guy to know how to run a program?
Look, Chris McIntosh made the bold move. He said, we've got it. Football is the engine that drives the entire university, which it is. He went out and make no mistake. I think he was on a plane the day he fired Chris. He was on his way to talk to Luke Fickell.
Well, that's all but been confirmed.
Yes. Jim Leonard is a great defensive coordinator. He may, in fact, stay, and I would encourage him to stay because Luke Fickell was in the exact same situation.
I was going to say, he was in the exact same situation. Urban Meyer was brought in, and he stayed as a defensive coordinator and then picked his job.
And Leonard will have his choice.
Learned a lot about recruiting, learned a lot about how to have a winning football team under Urban Meyer.
And I think Jim Leonard can learn the same lessons by going to somebody outside the family.
Right.
And learning Fickell's style and an Ohio State style of recruiting and of play.
Right.
The funniest thing I heard, though, make no mistake, Barry's still around. Chris McIntosh went to the Godfather, said, Godfather, I'd like to make this move. And the Godfather looked at him and said, yes, my son, that would be a great hire.
If you're going to go for the...
I don't do a good Godfather. I'm sorry.
Just go for it. Like, you don't have to hold back.
No.
Go for it. Make a fool out of yourself because I bet you it'd be better. Come on. Do it again.
I don't do a good Godfather.
Do it again. Come on.
Yes, my son. Go and make the hire.
You're still holding back.
It's awful.
You're still holding back.
Barry Alvarez owns Wisconsin.
He's the mafia head of Madison.
My favorite line of all time when they said, are you going to bring in a team to do a search? He goes, people come to me for their search.
Right.
I don't go to them.
Right.
Chris McIntosh made the same type of decision. He didn't go to a panel. He didn't do anything. He went out and made the home run hire of the year. Matt Rule was hired in Nebraska. Great hire.
Yes.
It was a blip on the map compared to what Wisconsin did.
Well, because who expected Luke Fickell, who turned down the job at USC, to go to Wisconsin, of all places? I mean, that shows what number one, Luke Fickell's a Midwest guy, and that's why he didn't go to USC. He's a family man. So, yes, he learned under Urban Meyer, but make no mistakes. He has a better character than Urban Meyer does.
Yeah, make no mistake. I mean, this guy's a good family man. His family was there, and they support him.
He made this decision with his wife. Like, let's not...
And his sons.
Like, you're going to go to school in Madison, which has great schools. It is a great city to go to school in. It was a good choice family-wise. And the thing that cost Chryst his job and where Luke Fickell's going to win is there was a recruit who was in Wanakee, which those of you that don't know where Wanakee is, it is right next to Madison. It is a suburb of Madison. You are within 20 minutes of downtown Madison where the campus is. And he was a 4 or 5 star recruit.
offensive
lineman, and he didn't go to the Badgers. He went to Minnesota or Iowa or someplace like that. You can't lose recruits like that.
No.
And keep your job at Wisconsin. Nobody leaves Wisconsin, especially not when you're in Wanakee of all places. You can't lose recruits like that. That's why Paul Chryst was let go.
Fickell also said 300-mile radius of Madison is Wisconsin's.
Right.
Now, that means he's going to be in Minneapolis, St. Paul. That means he's going to be in Chicago.
Means he's going to be in Iowa.
It means he's going to be in Iowa and in Michigan and in Ohio.
Correct.
We've always laughed about the New Jersey connection Wisconsin has with running backs.
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's because Barry's in the mob.
No, he's not. Anyways, I think Fickell is...
It's my best conspiracy theory ever.
Fickell is going to be a recruiting dynamo, which Wisconsin needs. My fear with Jim Leonhard, and I love Jim Leonhard as a defensive coach. I think he's one of the best in the country. But on the sideline, it looked like more of the same, and Wisconsin could not afford another 5 years of mediocrity.
How can you expect a guy to know how to recruit and run a program when his first coaching job was a defensive coordinator under a guy who didn't know how to recruit and run a program?
And that's why
that's not fair to Leonhard to put him in that situation. Now he's in a situation where if he does stay, he gets to learn under somebody who knows how to win at any program and knows and is bringing in a winning atmosphere. This guy was at Ohio State. You don't lose at Ohio State or you lose your job.
Correct. And make no mistake, Wisconsin is better be in the conversation for national titles now.
Well, I think you're a few years away from that.
Oh, absolutely we are. This is going
to be a Jim Harbaugh thing.
We need 5
years.
It's going
to take several years. What do I always say with college coaches?
5 years.
It's 5 years, and 6 years is where you really need to make a statement. What happened with Jim Harbaugh? People are calling for his head year 4. Year 5, all of a sudden, he beats Ohio State, and now in year 6,
beat him again.
He's got one of the best programs in the country. Like, it takes that long to build a program. Luke Fickell's going to be here for that long, but Wisconsin fans at this point need to be patient because you don't have a team right now.
I sent you some opinion pieces.
Yeah, Wisconsin fans are stupid. It's why I'm not one.
Saying that, go with the Wisconsin boy. Give him a shot. He earned his shot. BS.
Yeah,
this is a business. Wisconsin needs to win and be a program back on top. And the only way you're going to do that is to go outside the family. And Luke Fickell was a right hire.
Well, let's look at the Big Ten because clearly the Big Ten, especially the West with USC and UCLA come into play now, they have not taken this lightly. Matt Rule at Nebraska is going to turn around that program.
Nebraska is in the right direction for the first time in many years.
And Matt Rule is going to do the same thing. I mean, Luke Fickell will be competing with recruits from Nebraska at this point. The issue with Nebraska, and I heard it was interesting, and we may have talked about this on the show before, I don't know, but the issue with Nebraska is that when they stopped playing in the Big 12, they lost that connection to Texas and Oklahoma.
Correct.
Because they were getting those recruits because it's like, hey, you can play in front of your family, and now you're playing against people that, you're how do I put this? I'm putting this very poorly, but basically you're not going to get the recruits from Texas and Oklahoma anymore because you can't say that to people in their living rooms.
Correct.
You're never going to play in front of your family. With USC and UCLA coming to play now, though, I do think Nebraska especially will have that California connection at this point where you get to say, hey, you're going to be playing in front of your family.
Absolutely. And every Big Ten team is going to expand their recruiting to California to try to get those guys in.
Right.
And that's great. The one thing Wisconsin's also going to have to do to compete with the teams in the SEC and Ohio State is they've got to get bigger, stronger, faster. Fickell did that at Cincinnati. His team was fast. Wisconsin has always been the ground and pound. It won in certain circumstances, but it never got to the promised land.
Well, Matt Rule's going to do the same thing. Look at his Baylor teams.
Correct.
Talk about turning around a program in turmoil. That's harder than what he's about to do at Nebraska.
Yes.
And I think he's going to be very, very successful there. It's going to get interesting. Big Ten's making some big splash moves to really become that big conference. My question to you is, though, with Matt Rule going to Nebraska and Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin, and you're seeing a lot of other coaches choosing to go to programs you don't traditionally think of when you think of big-time hires for coaches. So I guess my question to you is the destination in college for a head coach as important as it once was?
Here's my big concern with Fickell. What happens if, my only concern, he was paid like $8 million a year, well worth every penny. But what happens if Ryan is taken out in Ohio State next year? Ryan Day,
I mean,
sorry.
if he loses to Michigan, he will. You don't lose to Michigan 3 times in a row.
Where is Ohio State going to go come knocking? They're going to be coming right to Wisconsin going, Luke, come back to Ohio State.
And he should.
No, he shouldn't.
And he should.
No, he shouldn't.
He won't.
He won't. He'll say, I'm hoping he won't.
He's been looking at Madison for a long time. What does Luke Fickell want to do? Does he want to go to a program where he's expected to win right away and will? Or does he want to do what he just did at Cincinnati, at Wisconsin, and build his own program? That's what he wants to do.
Personally, I think this is
where he wants to be.
Green Bay went back-to-back Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Wisconsin has just went
back-to-back.
Has just brought in their second Hall of Fame coach.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the last time they went outside the family, besides Gary Anderson, they got Barry Alvarez at Notre Dame. So, and 2 for 3 ain't bad. And Meatloaf song.
And Fickell has a much better resume than Barry Alvarez.
You're not answering my question. You are stuck on wanting to make me a Wisconsin fan here because Luke Fickell is there. And I will not cheer for Wisconsin. I won't. I will cheer for Luke Fickell to be successful.
Oh, my God.
There's a big difference.
You were born and raised here. You dude. I swear.
And I hate Wisconsin fans.
I swear I dropped you on your head.
There's a reason I'm an Ohio State fan, and there's a reason I'm a Cubs fan.
You're a Packer fan.
Because Wisconsin fans are annoying.
Why?
And don't understand their own team. And Brewers fans are some of the worst human beings on the face of the earth. I can't be a part of it. Packer fans are also annoying.
But you're one of them.
But I'm one of them. Ohio State fans are also annoying, and I'm one of them. Cubs fans are great. We have no issues. Like, Cubs fans are amazing.
Brewer fans are good. I don't like what they did with Ryan Braun, but
no, they're
anyways,
not. Brewers fans are terrible, disgusting human beings.
Back to college football. Here's my other question. We talked about this a little bit.
You haven't answered my question yet.
What?
Is the destination of a college as important now as it was 10, 15 years ago?
I think if a coach is going to go someplace, it's about the administration, how long he gets along, how well he gets along with the AD.
Right.
Are the facilities there? Wisconsin's going to make a major investment in upgrading the facilities.
The facilities suck.
Correct. They've gone downhill. The McLean Center has been there for years and years and years. They're going to upgrade it. I'm surprised they aren't annexing some of the houses in the area to build out the facilities.
They're going to.
Probably. If everything is in place and you like the city and it meets whatever your family values are, in case of Fickell, Madison's a great place to raise kids. I think you'll make that attempt and go there. Some people, though, just want to go to a Gainesville, Florida, and take a Florida program and just get it back to the top.
I mean, you look at Fickell. Fickell would have been in line for the Oklahoma job as well.
Yeah, I don't think he
choose to go there.
I don't think he fitted.
He was in the conversation of the Texas job. Chose not to go there.
Correct.
I mean, really, let's be honest. It was never announced. Dude was offered the Texas job.
And he was offered Michigan State.
He was offered Michigan State.
Turned it down. So it was about the culture. And I think with any hire, to answer your question directly, the culture's got to fit with the person. Some guys are going to jump at the money and just take it and run. Other guys, ones that are really, really solid and are going to have a national presence and are going to be their true great coaches, they look at the culture and see if it fits with not only themselves, but their families and what they can do to help graduate players, because Fickell also graduates players,
right?
Which is also attractive about Wisconsin because they do as well, and it's a priority for them. So that's the answer I have.
That's why you don't win national championships.
Yeah, we graduate our players.
See, I think, in my opinion, I think a culture has changed. I think you're seeing coaches now that would much rather take a program on the edge, like a Wisconsin, like a Nebraska, like a Oklahoma.
Instead of going to the Notre Dames of the world.
Instead of going to Notre Dame and just being a Notre Dame head coach, you're going to want to take a program and you're going to want to build it. Like you said, make sure the administration's there with you to support that. But you're going to want to build that program, because if you take a program like Wisconsin, if you take a program like Nebraska and you put them on top, in Nebraska's case, back on top, you will never be forgotten. If Luke Fickell comes into Wisconsin and wins there, it won't be Camp Randall Stadium anymore. It will be Luke Fickell Stadium.
Well, it will be Camp Randall. It's already Barry Alvarez.
Presented by Luke Fickell.
Maybe he'll get a statue outside. He knows he can build a legacy at Wisconsin. He can't build anywhere else.
He can't.
I mean,
At Ohio State, you're just expected to win.
Correct.
Urban Meyer is remembered because he won a national championship. But don't get me wrong here. He's not anything special. That's just what is expected.
Wisconsin is unique and probably similar to places like Nebraska, maybe even Gainesville, Florida. If you truly become the guy that takes them to the next level, you'll retire in that same town. You will become part of the community, and you will be. And the best thing is, you'll be left alone.
Right.
You can go shopping. Fickell can go shopping with his family and not be bombarded by people asking for autographs. It's a nice thing about fans around this area.
Right.
You know,
I think a lot of states are like that, honestly.
I think Gainesville is, certainly. I think Tallahassee was with Florida State.
Yep. Well, look at Mac Brown.
Yes.
Mac Brown going to North Carolina, and he turned that program around.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't won national titles like he did in Texas because, again, that's just what's expected in
Correct.
Texas. But in North Carolina, even though he's not winning national championships, he's never going to be forgotten. He has turned that program around completely, and will get a statue for going 9-2 as a best record.
In a community that is definitely a basketball town.
Correct.
So he will get that. Wisconsin wasn't anything when Barry came here. They weren't a basketball town.
They're
They weren't a
nothing
football
now.
town. Stop it. You're a Badger fan now. But
I'm a Luke Fickell fan.
As you
Still
should
won't
be.
wear the W.
I'll get him the W. Your kids wear the W.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I've seen you put it on them.
Yes, you have.
You know Grayson's favorite sweatshirt?
It's a Badger one.
It is not. It is an Ohio State one that has a covering built in that I bought him during COVID, and he loves it. And I bought that for him for a reason.
I'll be getting him.
Crystal also tried to make the boys
Bears
fan. And guess what I did? I took him, found a shirt that's tie-dye Packers, knew that he'd love it, got it for him, and now he wears that shirt all the time. I may not be smart, but I am sadistical and manipulative, and I will win.
You heard it here first. Okay. I want to stay with college football, but I do have a question for you. I was looking at the SEC and the Big Ten specifically because, let's face it.
Oh, is this your dumb idea?
Yes. Well, it's not my dumb idea. I've heard it from other places.
It's a dumb idea. Okay, continue, and then I'll say how dumb this idea is. Before you go on, though, when you hear this dumb idea and you agree with me that it is dumb, let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. Now, on to your dumb idea.
All right. What's college football all about?
Money.
Thank you. What would college football media partners, ESPN, ABC, Fox, all of them, want more than anything? More money.
Money.
Having two divisions with 7 teams each, or in the case of the Big Ten now, 8 teams each.
And the SEC in a couple of years.
Yeah, exactly. It's time for them to even think about going to 4 conferences, have a semifinal game, and then the championship game. There's plenty of time in the calendar.
There's not plenty of time in the calendar.
Oh my God. Number one, get rid of the little sister of the poor games and just start going into your Big Ten schedule.
What do you mean? The last game of the year in the Big Ten is Ohio State and Michigan.
Or Wisconsin and Minnesota.
It's Ohio State and Michigan. Little sister. You want to talk about little sisters?
It's rivalry day. It's rivalry game. However, if they start playing at the first game of the year, you don't have these out-of-conference games, which teams used to schedule just so they could beat them up and help on their record, win by 50 points. You start into your schedule. You got plenty of time because then rivalry day will be a week before Thanksgiving, semifinal game on Thanksgiving, championship game the following week. I just think 4 conferences make it place. In the Big Ten, for example, and hear me out, stop looking at me like that.
This is where you lose me.
I'm not losing you.
Because this is the problem with a 4-team draw. You're going to make a...
Hold on, considering we favor 5 3-team divisions in baseball.
Different.
Stop it. Just hear me out. In the
professional sports is a different game.
You
can't just
college,
get recruits.
Really?
You actually have to pay players and live within
What's NIL? Paying players.
Right. And the Ohio States and Alabamas of the world are going to be able to pay more.
Stop it. Here's my suggestion. In the Big Ten, for example, you'd have USC, UCLA, Nebraska, and Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Illinois, Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Purdue, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, and Indiana.
Cool. So, number one, you made sure the Badgers were favored and were going to be in the semifinals every single year.
Absolutely not. Minnesota and Illinois both trounced Wisconsin this year.
Right, because you don't have any recruits. If we're under the same expectation that Luke Fickell is going to turn that program around and bring in recruits the way that he can, you are never going to see those guys compete.
Then it's going to be the same thing if they're playing in the West. They'll be competing against USC every year.
You're 100% favoring Wisconsin in this.
I am not.
Which also the Big Ten did by putting Wisconsin in the West.
That was Barry.
You're favoring Penn State here. Penn State is never going to lose.
Make up your own 4-team divisions any way you want.
Because I don't believe in the 4-team divisions. Because it doesn't make sense. You're putting Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State. Purdue's done, number one. And number two, that's the hardest division you have out there.
It's the hardest division no matter what.
You have USC, UCLA, Nebraska, and Iowa. USC is going to, unless Matt Rule turns around Nebraska, Iowa's never going to compete.
Iowa might compete. UCLA might compete. Iowa's had traditionally, look at Hayden Fry. They traditionally have a
your
powerhouse
semifinals team. Every single year is going to be USC, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Ohio State or Michigan. Every single year.
And what is it now? Every single year. It was Wisconsin, Ohio State for like 4 years in a row.
Right.
Purdue is in there today.
So now you actually have something with the West with 8 teams each where you have USC, UCLA, you have Wisconsin, you have a lot of programs on the rise here where it's going to be competitive in the West finally, which it hasn't been. You've had shitty teams coming out of the West to get destroyed by either Michigan or Ohio State.
Put in the comments if you think my idea, which is a good idea, and the SEC should do the same exact thing, by the way.
What are your divisions going to be?
What do you mean?
In the SEC? You have Texas and Oklahoma together.
Let's see. Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri is hanging out there. Maybe Arkansas.
That sounds fun for Missouri and Arkansas.
Or make it LSU. You got LSU.
Right. Also, by the way, in our 5 3-team divisions, we made it where it was spread out, and so it was fair for every single team.
I just threw these together. Pick your own conferences. I just think having 4 divisions, a semifinal game, and a final game would make it much more exciting for everybody involved.
Why? We already have the college football playoffs that is being expanded to 8 teams.
Which I think is...
At some point, the regular season has to matter here. And all of a sudden, you're telling me that, say, okay, you have Ohio State, Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue in a division, right? So you have Ohio State and Michigan going at each other. So you're telling me that if Ohio State and Michigan are 2 and 3 again like they are now, one of them goes into the semifinals, which means you don't get to see Ohio State or Michigan play for 2 weeks. And you're basically telling the world that, hey, our 2 best teams are in a division together, and we're going to make sure one of them doesn't have a chance at getting into the playoffs.
They don't have a chance now. Look at what happened with Michigan, Ohio State.
8 teams. If you expand to 8 teams, you're telling me that Ohio State wouldn't be in right now.
They would still be in with
because you got to see them play. They're missing one game, which is a championship game. If you have those divisions where you have Ohio State and Michigan, it's the big 2 and the little, however many are in there now.
14.
So the little 12, right? You're telling me that you are going to force Ohio State or Michigan not to play for 2 weeks, and you are just sitting there and saying, yeah, you either win this game or you don't get to move on.
Well, what's happened now? Ohio State and Michigan played, and one team is going to go into the playoffs, and the other team right now is not going to be in.
I disagree. I think Ohio State should still be in. They lost to the number 3 team in the country, and USC lost to Utah.
I just like the idea. Put in the comments. Let me know what you think.
You're taking ranked teams. If you're the Big Ten, you are taking your ranked teams and you're telling the world that we're just going to pick from 4 here and you're not going to get to see the other teams play. I get what you're doing with the money grab, but
Put Michigan
You're hurting
State,
your own conference
put
here.
Michigan State in with Penn State then if you want to do it.
It's not about that. It's about Ohio State and Michigan. You're not going to separate Ohio State and Michigan because they're going to play every single year.
They do now.
But then you're going to force one of them to not play for 2 weeks.
How so? They have the semifinals.
Which Ohio State or Michigan will not be in.
Why won't they be in?
Because you have them in the same conference.
Okay, one of them won't be in.
Right. That's what I just said.
Okay.
One of them will not be in, which means either Ohio State or Michigan will not play for 2 weeks. Do you really think Ohio State or Michigan are going to sign off on this?
I don't care if they sign up. Then put Michigan
I
in.
do.
Put Michigan in with Penn State. Split them up and have the...
You're not going to split up Ohio State and Michigan.
Wait a minute.
You're going to play every single year.
Wait a minute. They're still going to play every single year anyways. Wisconsin's still going to play Minnesota, whether in
Penn
the same
State's going to compete every single year.
Penn State will as well. I don't care. They're still going to play the other teams. There's only 4 in the conference, so or the division.
Keep it 8-8. Keep it the way that it is. One of them goes to the Big Ten championship, and they're not sitting for 2 weeks.
I don't agree. I think it would be better and more competitive because people, unless you're a stupid Ohio State fan, hate Brutus, or a Michigan fan, which nobody likes them either, this is better for the rest of the Big Ten. They're going to be having more money to split up. Even Rutgers is going to be able to compete again.
The only way to make it work is to have a conference with, I like the Michigan Penn State conference. I think that makes sense. I like having Ohio State, Michigan State, and then who would you throw in there? Northwestern, Purdue, and Indiana. That makes sense. I think that's solid.
I think the Wisconsin one is actually the most balanced division of all of them.
Possibly, unless it gets turned around. Well, I mean, it hasn't. But just because Minnesota and Illinois ended up having decent years this year doesn't mean they're good programs.
If Wisconsin ends up taking over like they will with Luke Fickell,
right?
Fine, then it's a different story. I just wanted to throw it out there.
You're not going to let Ohio State and Michigan sit for 2 weeks. You're just not. That's a bad idea.
No, it's not. It's a good idea.
It's. I see where you're coming from, and I'll give you merit on the fact that I don't think what you're saying is a terrible idea. I get where you're coming from on this, but when it comes to the schematics of it and when it comes to real life application, it's like No Child Left Behind. Yeah, this looks great on paper, but in real life, it's dumb.
Better thing would have been Great Society, which destroyed certain things.
Whatever you want to put into play, it's the first thing that came into my mind.
Okay, which is fine. You could also have a third place game. But I wouldn't want to do that because that'd be stupid anyways. They used to do that, and I just never understood it. Want to float it out there? Let us know what you think.
It's for the college football playoffs. It's not. You have to make the regular season matter. It's the same conversation we had in baseball. You have to make the regular season matter. What's the point?
I still think it matters. I still think it matters. As a matter of fact, I think it matters even more because I think more teams. I want to see parity in the conference.
I want to go back to the BCS. I don't know why people had such a problem with it. I love the BCS. I thought it was great. What I don't agree with is having your best teams and telling your 2 best teams, hey, you're going to compete against each other in the same division because we love seeing that. But one of you is going to sit 2 weeks if we do this.
Okay, and instead,
it's not a good idea.
Ohio State's not sitting for how many weeks now?
1. There's a Big Ten championship. They just played last week.
And then they're sitting for how long before the playoffs start?
The same amount as everybody else. Now you're saying, what was the issue against Florida when Ohio State lost? What was the big thing? Why did they want a Big Ten championship? Because the teams were sitting for too long and it hurt them in the long run.
And this keeps them in there one more week and go right into the playoff where they...
Not if you're somebody that loses and will still be in the playoffs.
It's the same as having a bye. Michigan would still be in the playoffs.
Now it's like it's a bye. You don't have 2-week buys. You don't. That was the issue beforehand. That's what makes the idea dumb.
No, they're going to wait. And how do you get to say they're going to sit for 2 weeks? They're going to play in the semifinals. They'll miss the championship game, and then they go immediate into the playoffs.
How is Ohio State and Michigan playing in the semifinals?
Again, you can change the division structure if you want.
You're not going to because you want to see the Ohio State-Michigan game.
They're still going to have that. Even if they're in separate divisions, the last game of the year is going to remain the same because there's only 4 teams in the division. That counts for a couple of games. You're going to have to play everybody else in the conference. You do that,
that's a way to do it.
Well, that's the way you have to do it. You're going to still play other teams in the conference.
But you can't have it where it's Ohio State and Michigan in the same conference. You just can't.
Fine. Then put Michigan in with Penn State or Ohio State in with Penn State, however you want. I just threw it out as an example. Wisconsin could be with USC. I don't care. I just think 4-team divisions when you've got 16 teams in a conference makes sense.
But you get what I'm saying, though, right?
I don't want anybody to sit. I don't
It's
think
important to me that you understand.
The SEC is going to have to do it at the same time. I mean, they're going to have 16 teams and probably more with the demise of the Big 12 and the Pac, whatever.
Big Ten's going to get more.
Yes. They're going to be.
You're going to have SEC getting more. I think the ACC is going to be broken up at some point.
SEC and the Big Ten are going to be the two national conferences. There may be a third conference made up of everybody else.
Yeah.
Because I could see Big Ten and the SEC getting to 20 teams very soon. Because Notre Dame, make no mistake, Notre Dame at this point
they have to choose a conference.
They have to choose.
They have to choose. It's just a matter of which they choose. At
this
point, do you want them in the Big Ten? I think they fit.
I think they fit too. They don't fit anywhere else. They're not going to go to the SEC.
Sure, they will.
Well, if they want to get their brains beaten in by Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee.
The issue is for Notre Dame to compete at this point, they're going to need to change their academic standards, and they refuse to do that, which I don't blame them for. I actually respect them for that.
I do too.
But they're never going to compete at a national level.
They're going.
If
the problem
they do that.
The problem with Notre Dame is they used to be a golden team on the hill. They were
the helmets.
Everybody, it was Notre Dame and everybody else. Not so anymore. Now it's everybody else, and that's right. Notre Dame is in this conversation.
Right.
Why?
Right.
They aren't going to have their own TV network.
Well, college has changed. It used to be college was what you went to, so you had to have good grades for it, and then football was kind of a second thing.
Yeah,
now it's changed. Where
student athletes.
Yeah, football's the number one thing, and college is the rest of it.
Except that football does drive scholarships for the entire university.
Yeah, it does. And it has for Notre Dame for a long time, but it's just unfortunate that at this point, unless Notre Dame changes their academic standards, they're never going to compete.
That's not Notre Dame. They still need to be in a conference.
I like that fact that they don't change their academic standards.
I do too. Wisconsin,
they're not going to compete, though.
Wisconsin has high academic standards. They competed. They make sure their guys graduate.
Yeah, you have Luke Fickell now, who comes from Ohio State. Your academic standards aren't about to mean as much as they used to.
I think they will. I think Fickell is different in that way. I'm going to be interested to find out what Fickell. He made a point of saying that he's not going to treat Jim Leonard the way he was treated.
Right, because Urban Meyer came in and just took over, including the bowl game.
Yeah, and he's going to be coaching. Fickell's going to be coaching the bowl game on some level. But I think it's been announced that Leonard is going to be the head coach for the game, which I respect.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's a great hire for the Badgers. I will cheer for Luke Fickell. I will not cheer for the Wisconsin Badgers.
Go Bucky.
Ever.
Ever. I always say, Bucky Badger, with your tail up in the air. Ohio State, you can kiss what's under there.
Yeah, well, until you turn your program around.
We've made the first step.
Ohio State still has several
Did you know there's
more national championships than Badgers having none.
Do you know they're having a competition for the greatest college ceremonies, whatever? Like jump around for Wisconsin, dotting the I for Ohio State.
The greatest tradition of all time.
There is only one greatest tradition. It started recently. Nothing tops it.
Oh, in Iowa?
In Iowa.
I agree.
That is the greatest tradition in all of sports.
They built a new for those of you that don't know, we've talked about it on the show before, but for those of you that don't know it, Iowa has a tradition where after the first quarter, they built a children's hospital right next to the stadium, and they bring the kids up to the very top to watch the game because you can see it very clearly from the children's hospital. And after the first quarter, everybody stops and waves to the kids that are watching the game and wishes them well.
There's not a dry eye in the house.
It is the greatest tradition of all time. I agree.
It is.
I agree. But I think you and I have had a fun show.
We have.
A lot of arguments today. A lot of times you being wrong. I don't understand that at all.
Other way around. Dad was right.
No.
You were wrong.
That's not how it works, man. But you let us know what you think in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. It is now time for the moment that gives me nightmares. Any last words?
It is Christmas month.
Uh-huh.
It is time.
Uh-oh.
Remember, people, it's not about the gift you get. It's about the gifts you give. If you see a service member, buy them their coffee. If you see somebody down on their luck, get them some groceries. You've got neighbors close to you that are hurting right now. Take the time to help them out in their time of need. The economy is in the trash. We are in a recession and have been for a long time. Gas prices are still double what they were not long ago.
It's under $3.
It was $1.85. It's $1.85 2 years ago. Help your neighbors out. Buy them their tank of gas. Do what you can to help. Be a good person. And do whatever to fix the economy, because it's ridiculous. Have you seen the prices? Did you see what I had to pay for a turkey this year?
Yeah. You know, I have stuff to pay for too.
I know.
I have a family that I buy things for.
It doesn't have to be that way right now. In fact, we're going and begging other countries for oil when we've got it right here is ridiculous.
Why are you doing? You made a good message.
I still did.
And then went on to this nonsense.
It's
I
not
was
nonsense.
actually very pleased with you. I was very excited. We were great. And then you have to go
You're
into
the
this.
one who dreads this segment, and it's because you get me wound up on it.
I didn't
every
say a
single time.
word. I didn't say a
God.
thing. We have video evidence. You do it all on your own.
Yes, because I
don't say anything. I just let you talk. That's all I do.
Also,
You are an old man
I am not.
who is very opinionated about politics, like most old men are. And if you have any airtime where it's just you can't help yourself.
Also, if you haven't been to church in a while, go back to church. We need more God in the country. And I'll stop there.
Just believe in the good in the world. People are innately good. The 95-5 rule. 95% of the people in the world are actually really good people, and
Should be
5%
90.
of people in the world leave their carts in front of fire lanes.
Don't get me started.
I just had that. I almost got into a fight at Costco. That's my last word.
Really?
Dude. I was walking into Costco.
Yeah.
And number one, I don't understand why people don't put their carts back.
I've never understood that.
We've talked about that. It's my greatest morality thing. But there's a fire lane, right? It's a fire exit. And the guy puts his cart right in front of the fire exit door. And I looked back. I said, dude, you can't put your cart there. And he's like, I can't, with a big old smirk on his face. I said, it's a fire lane. I said, if there's a fire and your cart's in the way, you've killed people that are going to trip as they're trying to get away from a fire.
Is there a fire?
And he's like, well, I guess I'll have to move it. I said, or you can walk 10 feet and put your cart away and not be a lazy ass.
And you call me the old man.
Dude, that bugs me a lot.
It does.
Like,
I had one.
I don't get into gas stuff. I don't get into any of that stuff. What does bother me is being a decent human being. I try and teach my kids that every single day. And honestly, creating more work for somebody when you can just put a cart back is not being a decent human being. And not thinking for 2 seconds, oh, I'm putting my cart in front of a fire exit, where if there's a fire, this is where people come running out of so they don't die.
Somebody put one in a handicapped spot, and I, of course, grabbed it and moved it out of there when I went in. But it's like, take the two. You're right. You don't do that.
Walk 10 feet. That's mine that bugs me. But as for my last word, we had a great Thanksgiving. I can't thank you enough for cooking the turkey, the pie. The apple pie was great.
The pumpkin pie was awful.
Pumpkin pie was
awful.
really bad.
And I followed. Grayson and I made it together. We followed the directions to the letter. And it was
You're not a direction person. And Grayson was very
That's
upset by it. And it's like, listen, there are bad recipes. I've followed bad recipes. You followed a bad recipe.
He does like the pumpkin pie where I just put things in and it tastes fabulous.
Yeah.
It was a good pumpkin pie.
You got to make another one. Everybody, your pumpkin pies are normally great.
They were. Normally they are. This one was horrific.
We all have bad recipes every now and then. You found a bad recipe.
The turkey wasn't not a lot of meat on it either.
It was still really good.
It was good.
You still did a really good job, and I'm very thankful for you cooking, and I really appreciate it because the meal was good. I ate all of it.
It was good. The scalloped corn was good.
The stuffing that
was
Pammy made
fantastic.
was so good.
It was great. I'm just thankful. Some people love to deep fry birds. I will never do it again.
No, because the house exploded 2 blocks down from us the last time you tried.
I didn't think it was that good though.
No, I wasn't a big fan. I'd much rather have it in the oven where you put random stuff like oranges in it.
Oranges and lemons.
It turned out great. It really did. Very
Right.
thankful for that.
Frying your birds before you cook.
We are into the Christmas season. I have
Yes.
Grinch on the roof stealing my Christmas. It is that time for music and movies and all that fun stuff.
That it is.
And I just hope we get some snow instead of downpour rain
my
in
God.
the state of Wisconsin.
A friend of mine in Florida asked, have you got snow? No.
Well, we
and I
did.
hit it. We did. But then, and the hunters liked it. A lot of deer's taken this year, thank God.
Yeah, there's a big population.
We better end the show.
This last word went on for a while.
Went on for a while.
It really did. This is your fault. It always is. You go
Why
off
why
on
me?
tangents because
I
I
just-
have to reel you back in.
I just went off on legitimate things that
No.
would bring down the cost of Christmas for people who need it.
You could have just stayed at being charitable.
Yeah, but people like it when I go off.
I don't think so. I don't think they do. But it wouldn't be you.
They agree with
if
me.
you didn't.
They agree with me.
The old people, I'm sure, that are in your echo
By the way,
chamber love what you
I will
have
say
to
one thing I'm thankful for. We are up to how many subscribers now?
3,500.
3,500. So
Yeah.
thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching. And we will have Christmas and other things that happened in December that we never talk about. So
Good deal. Thank you, as always, so much for watching. We really appreciate you every single week tuning in. This has been Sports Talk with Dad. We'll see you soon.
bye, everybody.